Welcome to the Korean Atlas and History. Each episode, we will take you on an exploration through some aspect of Korean culture, the landscape, the history, and more. Today, on the Korean Atlas and History, North Korean leaders, Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung was the leader of North Korea from its establishment in 1948 until his death in 1994. Most of what we know about Kim Il-sung is directly from him. He was born on April 15, 1912, to parents Kim Hyung-jik and Kang Ban-sak. His birth name was Kim Song-ju. He had two younger brothers, Kim Chul-ju and Kim Young-ju. He was born in the small village of Nami, which is now present-day Mangyongdae-guyok, a district of Pyongyang. He was raised Presbyterian, and his father was a Protestant minister. His family resented the Japanese occupation, which had begun in 1910. Due to this resentment, they participated in anti-Japanese activities, and in 1920 they were forced to flee to Manchuria. Some scholars speculate a second reason that the Kim family fled at this time was in order to escape famine that was ravaging Korea. In October 1926, Kim founded the Tado Jaeguk Jui Dongmeng, or the Down with Imperialism Union. At around this time, he attended the Hwasong Military Academy. However, Kim found the academy's training methods outdated, so he quit and he moved to Yuen Middle School until around 1929. It was around this time that he began rejecting the feudal traditions of older Koreans in lieu of communist ideologies. At the age of 17, he was the youngest member of an underground Marxist organization. The Chinese authorities discovered this group 3 weeks after it was formed and jailed Kim for several months, and this period marks the end of his formal education as well, as he never returned to any form of school. In 1931, Kim joined the Communist Party of China. Then, he joined various anti-Japanese guerrilla groups in northern China. At this time, Kim had two nicknames, Hanbyol, which means one star, and Kim Il-sung, which means Kim become the sun. Kim claims that he didn't like being called these names at first, but his comrades called them no matter how strongly he rebuked them. Then, during a 3-week stint in prison in 1931, he first saw his name appear in the press as Kim Il-sung. After this, he began to accept the nicknames. In September, the Mukden incident occurred, which gave the Japanese an excuse to send armed forces into Manchuria. Resistance in the area continued, and in 1935, Kim became a member of the Northeast Anti-Japanese United Army. This was a guerrilla group led by the Communist Party of China. Kim served as political commissar for the 3rd Detachment of the 2nd Division, which consisted of about 160 soldiers. During the time that Kim occupied this position, he met the chairman of the Political Committee of the Northeast Anti-Japanese United Army, Y. Jengmin. Y reported directly to Kang Sheng, a high-ranking party member close to Mao Zedong. Until his death in 1941, Y was a mentor to Kim in the ways of communism. In 1935, Kim formally took the name Kim Il-sung. In 1937, he was appointed a commander of the 6th Division, a division which came to be known as Kim Il-sung's Division. On June 4, 1937, Kim's division took the small village of Pochonbo. This event, known as the Battle of Pochonbo, began when the 6th Division crossed the Amnok River and arrived at Konjang Hill on June 3rd. Kim fired a shot into the sky, and the battle started. During the battle, Kim took 4,000 yen and inflicted damages estimated at 16,000 yen. Kim occupied the town for only a few hours before retreating back to Manchuria. This official version of the battle, however, does not correspond with some contemporary records. Some even suggest that the rebels were actually led by a man named Chae Hyun. Nonetheless, this battle made Kim somewhat famous among Chinese guerrillas. The Japanese also regarded Kim as one of the most popular and effective Korean guerrilla leaders. North Korean propaganda would later exploit the Battle of Pochonbo as a great victory for Korea. Because of his rising fame, in 1940 the Japanese sent their Maida unit to hunt Kim. The Japanese kidnapped a woman named Kim Hye-sun, who is thought to have been Kim's first wife. The Japanese used her as a hostage to make the Korean guerrillas surrender. When the Korean guerrillas showed no sign of surrender, she was killed. The Japanese continued to hunt the guerrillas, and by the end of 1940, Kim was the only first army leader who remained alive. Pursued by Japanese troops, Kim and the remnants of his army escaped by crossing the Amu River into the Soviet Union. Kim was retrained as a Soviet and became a major in the Soviet Red Army until the end of World War II. In 1941, Kim married his first official wife, Kim Jong-suk. Kim Jong-suk was the mother of two sons. Kim Jong-il, the successor to Kim Il-sung, was the elder of the two. The other son, Kim Man-il, died in 1947 in a swimming accident. Kim Jong-suk died in 1949 during childbirth while delivering a stillborn girl. On August 8, 1945, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan and moved to Pyongyang. Lavrentiy Beria advised Joseph Stalin that Kim would make a good leader for these newly Soviet-occupied territories. Thus, on September 19, 1945, Kim returned to Korea after exile for 26 years. At this time, Kim could only speak passable Korean. He had 8 years of formal education, all of which was in Chinese. He required a considerable amount of coaching for his first speech, which was just 3 days after his arrival. In December of 1945, the Soviets made Kim chairman of the North Korean branch of the Korean Communist Party. At this time, Kim was the top Korean administrative leader in the North, subordinate only to General Shtaikov of the Soviet Union. In order to solidify control, Kim established the Korean People's Army. Using Soviet advisors and equipment, this army was instructed in infiltration tactics and guerrilla warfare. The Korean People's Army was also equipped with Soviet trucks, arms, artillery, and medium tanks. Kim also created an air force with propeller-driven fighters, but later moved on to MiG-15s. In 1946, the country underwent reforms. Over 50% of all arable land was redistributed, an 8-hour workday was proclaimed, and all heavy industry was to be nationalized. These reformations helped improve the health of the population as well, as he nationalized healthcare and made it available to all citizens. In 1948, the United Nations planned to conduct all Korean elections, yet the Soviets held elections of their own. Voters were presented with a single list of communist-dominated candidates. On September 9, 1948, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea was formed, with Kim Il-sung as the Soviet-designated premier. The Communist Party of North Korea was led by Kim Tu-bong, although Kim Il-sung retained most of the real power. On October 12, 1948, the Soviet Union recognized North Korea as the sovereign government of the entire peninsula. The Communist Party merged with the New People's Party of Korea, and they formed the Workers' Party of North Korea, with Kim as a vice chairman. In 1949, the Workers' Party of North Korea merged with the Workers' Party of South Korea to become the Workers' Party of Korea, with Kim as party chairman. It was around this time that Kim began promoting his personality cult. Many statues of him appeared, and he began calling himself Great Leader. In June 1950, the Korean War broke out. This was mainly on Kim's initiative, and the North marched south in order to reunify Korea under the banner of communism. At the outset of the war, the North captured Seoul and occupied most of the South except for a small area in the South called the Busan Perimeter. In September, U.S. forces landed in Incheon while at the same time beginning a combined South Korean, U.S., UN offensive from the Busan Perimeter. By October 1950, UN forces had retaken Seoul and invaded the North to reunify the country under the South. During this attack, Kim and his government fled north, first to Sinwiju and eventually to Gangye. On October 25, 1950, after several warnings to stop the UN advance, Chinese troops crossed the Yalu River and entered the war as allies to the Korean People's Army. UN troops were forced to withdraw, and Chinese troops retook Pyongyang and Seoul in 1951. After a back-and-forth fight that lasted more than 2 years, the armistice line was established as it now stands at the Korean Demilitarized Zone. Over 2.5 million people died in the conflict. The Korean War left North Korea devastated. Kim launched a 5-year national economic plan to establish a command economy with all industry owned by the state and all agriculture collectivized. The economy was focused on heavy industry and arms production. At this time, Kim began to consolidate his power over the Korean Communist movement by eliminating rival leaders. Park Hon-young, the leader of the Korean Communist Party, was purged and executed in 1955. It was also in 1955 in which Kim gave his first speech where he advocated the idea of juche, or self-reliance, an ideology which North Korea follows to this day. During the 1956 August Faction incident, Kim successfully resisted an attempt of the Soviet Union and China to depose him in favor of Soviet Koreans or the pro-Chinese Yan'an faction. In 1958, the last Chinese troops withdrew from North Korea, which is when the country is considered to be effectively independent. At this time, Kim also created the Sungbun system, in which all people are divided into 3 groups: core, wavering, or hostile. This system decides all aspects of a person's existence in North Korean society and persists to this day. Kim punished real and perceived dissent through public executions and enforced disappearances. This included not only the dissenters, but their entire extended families as well. In 1952, Kim married his second official wife, Kim Song-ae. It is believed that he had 3 children with her: Kim Yong-il, Kim Kyung-il, and Kim Pyong-il. Kim Pyong-il was prominent in politics, and he has been the ambassador to the Czech Republic since 2015. By the 1960s, the Soviet Union replaced Khrushchev with Brezhnev, and Kim's relations with the Soviets in Eastern Europe strengthened while his relationship with Mao became strained. Kim also strengthened his personality cult, and North Koreans were taught that Kim was the son of the nation and that he could do no wrong. He further enforced his policy of Juche, and he rallied against the idea that North Korea was a satellite state of China or the Soviet Union. Kim was impressed by Ho Chi Minh's efforts to reunify Vietnam through guerrilla warfare, and he thought something similar might be possible in Korea. Infiltration and subversion efforts were stepped up, and the efforts culminated in an attempt to storm the Blue House and assassinate President Park Chung-hee. North Korean troops took a more aggressive stance around the demilitarized zone, and in 1968, the spy ship USS Pueblo was captured as part of this campaign. At this time, Kim also began abducting foreign nationals, a practice which persists to this day. In 1972, North Korea proclaimed a new constitution which proclaimed an executive presidency. Kim gave up his position as premier and was elected president. In 1980, Kim announced that his son, Kim Jong-il, would succeed him. Because of the Juche ideology, from around the 1980s, North Korea faced increasing economic difficulties. From 1979 onward, the economic reforms of Deng Xiaoping in China meant that there would be less trade with North Korea. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1989 furthered North Korea's isolation. Kim refused any economic or political reforms, thus exacerbating the problem. As he aged, Kim developed a calcium deposit on the right side of the back of his neck. Its close proximity to his brain and spinal cord made it inoperable. From the start of the growth on, in order to hide the growth, North Korean reporters and photographers always filmed him while standing from the same slight left angle. As he aged, Kim turned over the chairmanship of North Korea's National Defense Commission to Kim Jong-il. In 1994, Kim began investing in nuclear power to offset energy shortages. In June 1994, U.S. President Jimmy Carter traveled to Pyongyang to urge Kim to halt his nuclear research and uranium enrichment program. To the astonishment of many, Kim agreed to halt his nuclear research program. On July 8, 1994, Kim collapsed from a sudden heart attack. Despite efforts to save him by the best doctors in North Korea, Kim died at the age of 82. His body was placed in a clear glass sarcophagus in the public mausoleum at the Kim Susan Palace of the Sun, where it remains preserved to this day. Until now, even though he is dead, Kim remains North Korea's president, the General Secretary of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea, and the chairman of the party's Central Military Commission. We hope you have enjoyed the Korean Atlas and History. Much of our information has been obtained through the Namu Wiki and Wikipedia. If you want to learn more or study the Korean names of these places, check out our Memrise tool. If you wish to download all the episodes of this podcast, want more information, or want transcripts of this podcast, visit us at www.koreanatlasandhistory.com. If you wish to send us an email, you can email us at koreanatlasandhistory@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.